All right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by John Tarnoff, who is just up the road in LA. How are you doing, John?
I'm good. Good to be here.
Yeah, and John's an executive and career transition coach, speaker, and author who helps mid-career professionals regain control of their careers. And you were in the entertainment business for a long time, 35 years, film
Yeah.
producer, studio executive, tech entrepreneur, and you learned how to handle setbacks and how to turn them into successes in a volatile industry. And that's what we're going to talk about today is the work you do nowadays on mid-career transition. So, John, let's face it. I mean, today we probably live in the most youth-obsessed era we've ever lived in, right? And therefore, it's a tough time for people, as you said, mid-career or older, who, maybe are starting to think that they're just, they're not interesting to employers anymore or for career transitions or anything like that. And they should just kind of stick with what they have, maybe because there's no opportunities out there because they've hit that age. What do you say?
I say it's a growth mindset problem, and that if you really focus in on what it is that you love to do well, and are looking for ways of growing that experience and that capability into a relevant, useful value proposition that is attuned with what's out there in the marketplace, then yes, ageism is real. It is out there. There's nothing that you can do about it directly except offer yourself as a really stellar example of what experience looks like and why experience is relevant to the problems that businesses are facing today.
And that's such a good point, John, because I think that's probably where a lot of people struggle is how do they articulate their
Yeah.
experience? How did they communicate the value of their experience? And sometimes how do they communicate this to perhaps people who are younger than them, who, especially in HR departments and stuff, even
Yeah.
getting your foot inside the door. So how do you do that and make sure that your experience is communicated in a way that's value creating as opposed to just making you sound like a dinosaur?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think there's something wrong with being a dinosaur. I think, I mean, it's a separate conversation, but I think
Yeah.
that the key paradigm shift for me is that we have to look at this as an inside out flow, an inside out proposition. And by that, I mean that instead of trying to focus outwardly on what's out in the marketplace, what are the jobs that you're seeing, and trying to figure out how you can fit into someone else's job description.
Hmm.
And this, frankly, is what the conventional wisdom of most career coaches has always been. It's like, see what's out there and see where you fit.
Right.
I think this is a really bad idea for an experienced professional. And I'll tell you why. You're more than that. You have experience that doesn't map to the very restricted, narrow, I would say myopic job descriptions that most of the time you're going to read. Most of those job descriptions, if you read the fine print, are targeted at people with 5 to 10 to 15 years experience. I have never seen a job opening that was advertising for someone with 25 years of experience,
Yeah.
right? Those positions are in what's known as the hidden job market, which is the referral marketplace, which is
Hmm.
where you, as an experienced professional, need to focus. That means that you need to focus on two things. One is building relationships, but two, you need to focus on what your product market fit is. And you start on the inside. You start with what you've done well, what those distinguishing characteristics are of your career, where you've really had a great time, the environments that you've worked in. You need to do some self-reflection around what is that package that you offer. And then use your network to
Hmm.
find compatible positions that meet those criteria in the middle, right? Where you're not trying to fit yourself in, you're presenting a product, and you're
Mm.
presenting an opportunity for other people who need what you offer to engage with you and buy what you're selling.
Yeah. And it's interesting, John, because I know we were just talking before we came on a little bit about, you were saying we talk a lot about sales, you're in a different type of but here, exactly what you're talking about here is pure sales, like real sales,
Right.
consultative sales.
Yep.
It's in order figuring out what value you bring, what's your product, i.e. yourself, and then how can you best, position yourself. Because I agree with you. Because the other thing, let's face it, John, 99.999% of job descriptions that are put out there are just cut and paste and changed
Bogus.
from,
Totally
so they're
bogus.
not actually they don't even probably even reflect what the job really is.
And they may not reflect an actual job, right?
Yeah.
So much of what's being posted today is, let's just call it fictitious, right? These are either ghost jobs, these are jobs that are either already filled, that are performative in the sense that companies are trying to look busy. So
Yeah.
they'll post these jobs to make their competitors feel like, oh, they must be growing, they're expanding, they're hiring all these people. No, no, no. This is just complete BS. Or they are looking to harvest resumes to
Mhm.
see what's out there, but they really have no intention of hiring anyone for that position.
Yeah. So it's really interesting then that, as I said, that you need to be very aware. As you said, I mean, this is an inside out thing. So you need to be very aware of what your strengths are, what you can, and what value you bring, and what the value is. And I guess if you don't put a premium on your experience, then nobody else is going to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the the really confusing thing I think for a lot of experienced professionals is that they feel good about their experience, but they don't seem to get that approval in the marketplace. Their
Mhm.
experience is undervalued. And I think that the irony there is that people who don't have experience don't understand the value of experience,
Yeah.
right? So if you are trying to engage with a younger hiring manager or a recruiter and you're dining out on your experience, they're not really understanding what you're talking about, and they feel like, oh my, he's telling me war stories from the past. So you
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
right, you don't want to do that. You don't want to tell the war stories. You don't want to kind of puff yourself up about, oh well, yes, I had that situation 15 years ago and here's what we did.
Yeah.
No, no, no. What you do though is you apply the learning of your experience to that particular problem. So for
Mm.
example, the job in question may have certain responsibilities, certain goals. Talk about what you would do, but don't kind of pepper it with all of your past successes or problems or whatever. Don't contextualize it in that way. Bring it up to date. Make it
Mm.
real. Make it now.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important point is to make it, as you said, make it relevant, make it now, contextualize it, bring it up to date. Yeah, because you don't want to sound like one of those people droning on about, well, I did this back here and we did this and we did that, and their eyes are just glazing over
Right.
because to them you're talking about like, a few hundred years ago at this stage.
Right. Or it's a different business, right?
Or it's a
It's like
different
it
business.
may have worked for that company, but that was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And look, I get that companies want to focus on your most recent experience, and that's
Mhm.
true. But one thing which I think is important to say here is that you don't want to follow this, I think, really toxic advice that a lot of people say, which is, oh, remove all of your dates, remove jobs that are more than 10 years old. You may want to summarize those jobs
Yeah.
on your resume or your profile, but you don't want to eliminate them because then that just kind of cuts you off at the knees and you find yourself competing with people who only have 10
Yeah.
years worth of experience when you have so much more to offer. So why would you undersell yourself, underrepresent yourself when there's a way of doing it which provides context for the recruiter or the hiring manager and supports the fact that you bring a lot to the table. Now you just want to focus on what they're looking for and what you deliver today, but they're going to hopefully think about, well, this is a value add. This is someone
Mhm.
who is focused on this job, can do the job, but brings so much more to the party.
Yeah, no, no, I agree, and I think that again, I think that's such great advice for people. Is as I said, know your value, but also don't underestimate the value of your experience, or don't pretend. I mean, here's the thing, John. Like you could cut off half of your jobs or whatever, but they're still going to know how old you are. Then they're just going to wonder what the heck were you doing for the first half of your career.
Absolutely. Right. Right. There's no hiding your age, unfortunately, or fortunately. I mean, it
Yeah.
depends on what your attitude is, but I
Mhm.
would say be proud of your age, right?
Yeah.
If you're still kicking, then you're still contributing.
Yeah.
So
And by the
that,
way, and by the way, if you've been around, like other generations these days, there's a lot of people are vintage who can out energy a lot of those people.
absolutely, because you've been there, done that. I mean, there's a concept in neuropsychology called gist thinking, and you've probably been in this situation. You're in a meeting and everyone's trying to figure out how to solve a particular problem, and you're listening to the conversation and thinking, well, it's so easy. And you say,
Yeah.
well, here's the solution, guys. I mean, come on. And
Yeah.
everyone looks at you like, how did you figure that out? And it's because you've been doing this over and over and over again for so long that it just is natural, right? It just runs right out of your mouth. It's part of the neural pathways that have been written into your brain after all these years. So there's a lot of time saving and waste avoidance by hiring someone who's got a few years on their track record.
Yeah. So what are some of the hesitancies that companies have, or HR or recruiting people have, when it comes to recruiting people of a vintage?
Right. The most significant objection that I hear reflected through clients is this concept that you are somehow overqualified for this
Mm,
position. That that one word packs a wallop in terms of the age bias and the confusion
mhm.
and the lack of education that it reveals. So what they're saying is, or what they're afraid of is, few things. One, you've done this before, you're going to get bored. It's not
Mhm.
really what you want to do. You want to get back on that ladder, and why aren't you applying to a VP position or
Right.
an SVP position or whatever that might be? They're suspicious of you. The other thing is that they think you're gunning for someone else's position. This is a
Right.
stepping stone, right? You're going to try to take over the hiring manager's role. You're going to switch out to another department. That this can't really be what you're interested in. So those are the two top things I think are running through people's minds. And I think it's really important, if you've done this kind of precursor. In other words, if you have decided, this is what I want to do, this is the value that I provide, this is what I love to do, what I do well, what my experience shows I can do, and I'm at a point in my career where I'm no longer interested in just climbing the ladder. I've been there,
Yeah.
done that, and what I really want to do is this. You have to explain that to them, right? You have to explain that while they may think you're overqualified, you're actually most perfectly qualified for these reasons. First, you want to disabuse them of this bias they have, that
Mm.
you've got another agenda going on. Explain to them that you've done all of these things in the past, and what you really would love to do is this job because it doesn't involve all of that other stuff. And I just had a client in this position, senior level executive, engineer, MBA. The last two positions he was in were murder. He was a director. He had teams under him.
Mhm.
The politics were intense. He kept getting laid off. We helped him pivot to this new position that he just started like a month or two ago. He's actually an individual contributor. He is so happy. He's focused on really what it is that he wants to do. Interestingly, they're coming back to him and saying, hey, look, we know you're an IC. We've got some projects coming up, and would you be open to leading some teams for us?
Mhm.
Right? So, he didn't do this out of manipulation,
Right.
but what it is he's doing what he really wants to do, and where he feels most comfortable. He's out of the politics. He's out of the BS meetings that he had to run. He's doing the work that he loves to do. So, this is a way of kind of turning around your focus, and you may find that, forget about the title, right? As long as you are doing the work that really fulfills you and is more purposeful for you at this stage in your life, you should go for it.
Yeah, then it's an interesting topic that you raised there, John, because that can feel if you're a hiring manager or HR, the people you're dealing with are earlier in their career, so they're in that mode of like, trying to go up the ladder and forward. This is going to be a very alien concept to them. The
Yes.
fact that you've been there, done that, and you're not that interested in it anymore. That you're, and I guess the other thing is then maybe they start to worry, oh, are you just coming here to wind down your career? Are you just looking to kind of kick back, or what is it?
Yeah. Look, the average job tenure across the marketplace is about 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's even less for younger
Yeah.
workers. So if anyone says, well, we're kind of concerned about the longevity of your position here and all that's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
You're losing people right and left who are leaving you to go for other positions. I'm someone who has been there, done that. I know what I want to do, and this is what I want to do. So as long as you'll have me, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
What's the problem here?
Yeah, exactly. And you're getting all this additional experience. And like you said in the example a few minutes ago, you have a resource that you can probably leverage for other things once you get used to them or whatever, in a way that you're never going to be able to leverage a lot of the other resources that are new and don't have the same background.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a really it's a really interesting point, and like I said, and it can be alien to people who are at a different point. Because to be honest, I mean, I know when I was earlier in my career, yeah, it was all about now it's about it's different priorities, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, what would you say to companies or hiring managers and stuff about what they may be missing out on if they carry maybe some of these unconscious or conscious biases into their recruiting?
Well, first of all, I would say that you want to cast not necessarily a wider net, but you want to change up your recruiting philosophy. And there's a lot of talk in LinkedIn and in the press about the value of older workers. I think a lot of hiring managers may not be closed to this idea. They just don't have a context for it. They just don't
Mhm.
understand where someone with all this experience fits. And I would say the the suggestion I would have for hiring managers who are open to this and HR departments that are trying to open up to this is start doing, strangely enough, exploratory meetings, informational interviews. I mean, usually the informational interview is something that the candidate does to get their name out, to
Mhm.
build network, right? You find someone at a company, say, hey, can I get 20 minutes of your time? I want to learn more about you and what you do, and possibly maybe I could get some referrals from you. I would say HR hiring managers start looking around LinkedIn for people who fit the agenda of your company, your department, your team. Uh, Maybe you don't necessarily want to hire them or you have no position for them, but start cultivating relationships so you can start learning about how they think, how they approach their work. Maybe there's some tips that you can learn about where someone like this could fit into your organization. And very often, what happens in the hidden job market process
Mhm.
is that through these kinds of conversations, whether they are generated from the candidate side or from a visionary HR and recruiting perspective, you may uncover needs that you didn't know you had. And this person or someone like them might be the solution to that problem. And I would say that's how I got hired. My last role in entertainment was at DreamWorks Animation.
Yeah.
And this is exactly how I was hired. There was no role, there was no open position. I had a friend over there who said, "Oh, you should come over and work here." I said, "Well, what's the job?" He said, "There is no job." And I said, "Oh, great." He said, "No, I want you to start meeting people here. Let's see if we can build some traction." Well, sure enough, I mean, it took 6 months. But I
Mhm.
kept meeting people. The conversations were going great. We were exploring all sorts of interesting topics, stuff that I had never really talked about before in a job interview. It was about the future of the business and the company, what they were doing, all that. And then 6 months go by, and all of a sudden I get a call. The CEO wants to meet me. I'm thinking, okay, well, here we go. So that laid the groundwork for this role. And he said, look, um, everyone says we should hire you. no one knows exactly what you're going to do. He said, but I think you should start here and work your way through these various positions.
Mhm.
Here's what I'm interested in learning more about from your perspective that maybe could help us out. And I was there for 6 years through a succession of strategic roles, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's a great that's a great story, a great one to finish on, just to show that this can work. And I love that idea of, networking and talking to people and stuff. And the fact is, yeah, they might end up like saying, wow, here's a great resource. We need to figure out how we can leverage this resource. Because, yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, most of the roles in organizations are copied off the internet and they never end up being even. I used to say to people, the only thing on your job description that you should worry about is that sentence that says, and anything else your manager asks you to do. So, because the chances of your job actually turning out to be anywhere close to your job description, probably slim.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks, John. This has been fascinating. Great insights for any of our more seasoned people out there who are maybe feeling a little pressure in the job market, maybe thinking that your time has passed. But as John has amply outlined, it's not true. You have an awful lot to offer. You just maybe need to think a little bit different about yourself, package your experience a little bit different, do what John said, like network, be confident and put yourself out there. So thanks. All of John's information will be below this video. But before we go, John, please do remind people about what you do.
So I'm an executive and career transition coach. I work primarily with mid-career professionals, especially MBAs, who are struggling to build traction in the job market at this very delicate mid-career inflection point.
Perfect. All right. Well, listen, thanks again, John. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.